DC Multiverse!
Well, what the frig, this guy's tall. I can barely fit Necron in frame. I've been sitting on these four figures for a while like a mother hen on a rotten egg. And I guess it seems that today's the day that I review the Blackest Night Superman, Batman, Deathstorm, and Necron. Necron is huge. This dude is a tall, slender, creepy, Iron Maiden looking motherfucker. Don't believe me? Well, let's just compare him.
I can't see the difference. Can you see the difference? No, I can't see the difference. Can you see the difference?
That's what I said, right? He could be an Iron Maiden mascot. I've got two other Necron figures, the DC Direct Way 2 short version and the Collect and Connect Mattel DC Universe Classics. Because this guy's supposed to look, well, like a zombie more than anything else. There's his blackened heart there on the inside of his chest. Foul-looking, rotten skin on his arms with the bandages that go around his wrists. We have, of course, the symbol right here on his waistband that's been worked into the design of the suit. Fantastically textured outer garments with the hood hanging down, might I add. Now this hood, obviously, it can't be used for anything, but it is kind of neat that it hangs there all Grim Reaper-like. And just all the paint details inside of this guy's skin, I mean, he looks really, really good. You got these here neck bondages here. I'd like to put some chains in these. I think that would look fantastic. Same thing with the one that's here on his wrist. The boots look appropriate enough for what the character's supposed to look like, and you got his stripy pants. This facial sculpt looks not only like it jumped off the cover of an Iron Maiden album, but also he looks like the epitome of like every 1980s horror movie monster, or at least a lot of them, except for the fantastically sculpted symbol on the forehead there. This guy looks really good. I really like this facial sculpt. He's fairly posable, but also has a lot of limitations. So, as usual, the arms are going to be pretty good for a McFarlane figure. He's pretty much got the, I'm going to use double jointed elbows like all the time thing, down pat, which is good. Bicep swivel, rounded hinges in the elbows. The head even gets a pretty decent range of motion. Nothing, absolutely niet in the torso, and I don't even care because I don't want to break that detail up. I feel like that would be a bad choice. The waist. I'm going to say he does have articulation there, but this garment will totally get in the way. I'm not really that concerned, honestly. I don't plan on putting him in very many dynamic poses. He's just going to stand on my shelf. You've got the McFarlane inner crotch groin action there. Same kind of articulation for all the figures that he makes. Double jointed knees and ankles that, as usual, are round, and they have toe articulation. Not the most articulated figure, but certainly the coolest looking version of Necron, I think, all round. And now we have Superman with the red eyes, very classic looking to the storyline. This is the version of Superman who managed to survive Crisis on Infinite Earths along with his beloved wife Lois, Superboy and Alexander Luthor in that little pocket universe. And then in the events of Infinite Crisis, after Lois died, he died saving the world. In other words, he died a hero, and then he was resurrected to become this rotting carcass of a Superman zombie. Kind of. Looks pretty spot on to the source material. Todd and his team have done a great job in matching his suit to the comic books that he's based out of. The face sculpt is perfect. It's perfect to the source material, and he just looks like a walking dead zombie. Ugh, I love it. Here he is stacked up against a few other McFarlane Superman figures. My question right now would be as to how articulated this guy is. Now, I'm not going to go through all the points because clearly you can see the points that he has, and we've been through this enough. I went through them all with Necron. He's going to have the exact same points. You can get him into a decent flying pose. Let's mash that body up even further. Oh, God. That's back pain Superman right there. That is a lot of bending. Yeah, so if a flight pose is your thing, you can get him into that. Also, if you're looking to get this guy into some just dynamic poses beyond flight, he can definitely do that. Like there's a lot of a range of motion here that you can really do a lot. That's the one thing I like about this one, and actually the Batman. Both of these figures, they really just want to pose up. There is so much that these guys can do. These figures have so much articulation that I have absolutely no complaints about Superman's posability here. I think it's fantastic. And now I want to look at the Batman. This is a figure that I like just as much as the Superman and the Necron. And seeing this guy, and really the rest in this entire series, really makes me kind of wish that he would do an entire Blackest Night series. You know, he looks pretty spot on to the source material. I love the texture in this suit. I mean, they've all been textured, but it really stands out with the gray. The texturing of his costume here. Utility belts on the side where they're supposed to be. Just like with the Superman, you have all the lines where they're supposed to be. I love these boots. I just really am impressed with these figures. These are going to be like the Blackest Night figures to have because they just look so fantastic. I love these little pointy bits up here, these soft rubber pointy bits up on his cape there. You have his bat emblem with the Black Lantern emblem right in the middle there. I think that looks really good. They did a great job on that. And I just thought that the character designs for Blackest Night were actually really well done. I really liked what they did with those. The cape is so detailed as well. Just look at all the scallops and the folds in the cape and how gnarly and ripped it is down the bottom. And underneath you've got all the nasty holes, and just this cape looks really good. And the face sculpt. If that ain't The Walking Dead in a Batman mask, well, I don't know what is. For the eyes, at first it kind of just looks like they got lazy and painted 2 circles in the mask, but it's not. They're actually painted black with 2 white circles on the inside. So I think everything is pretty much how it's supposed to look. Here he is compared to some other McFarlane Batman figures. He's definitely, you know, the scrawniest of the lot, which is to be expected because on account of, you know, being dead and all. He's also, just like Superman, as I mentioned, really articulated. You can get this guy into some really good dead guy poses. I love posing this guy around. I'm probably having a lot more fun just mucking about with the Batman and the Superman than I have with a lot of McFarlane figures in a while. And I know that, you know, they can do pretty much the same thing as a lot of McFarlane figures, but I think what makes me feel like these figures are extra swaggy, they can pose a bit more, is the fact that the torsos are actually really good. And this Batman's torso is off the hook. It's really poseable, like crunch down, crunch up, no problem. I really like that. So yeah, this Batman figure is probably, oddly enough, one of my favorite Batmans that Todd's put out. And I didn't see that coming, to be honest. And then we have Deathstorm. Oh, this guy was a bitter soul in the source material. And every drop of that is conveyed perfectly with this figure. Boy, did he ever give Jason and Ronnie a run for their money. And when he got his hands on that White Lantern, look out! This figure looks just as good as the source material I've just mentioned. I like the fact that he actually looks, texture-wise, like he is from the comic book. Quick note, I actually associate this character, so thus this figure, with Brightest Day, and not Blackest Night. At any rate, again, just like all of the other figures reviewed in this video, the details are off the hook. They're so well sculpted into the character's body that, just like the others, he looks just like the source material. And he's got really his own texture in comparison to the other reviewed figures. I like how his chest logo is actually a reworked Black Lantern logo. That is perfect how they worked that in there to make it look kind of like the classic Firestorm logo, but also not. These shoulder pads, they're actually softer, so, you know, they don't get in the way too much, or do they? Let's find out. Yep, okay, never mind. They're a softer rubber because you wouldn't want to make them really hard in case he falls over and they break or something. Maybe you poke your eye out or whatever. But they actually will. You'll see when we do the articulation. They do get in the way. The head sculpt for this figure is fantastic, too. It's all been painted on top of this kind of translucent purpley plastic. You can see through it a little bit of light escapes through it. Like here I've got my phone behind him and you can actually see it's going through just a little bit. So they did a great job painting all of those facial details onto this molded flamey skull. Now, having fiddled with him just a little bit, I can tell you that in the abs department, he is not quite as articulated as the Batman and the Superman. But he's definitely more than the Necron. Like, in comparison to no articulation point, having some kind of an ab crunch is definitely better than no ball-jointed ab crunch. And all the other directions, it does move quite freely. Like flight pose, no problem, side to side, very well. You've also got the waist, 360 shoulders, rounded hinge. Of course, you got the socket there. You've got the bicep swivel, that'll do 360. You're gonna have these double-jointed elbows, which, if it wasn't for the pauldron here, they would probably... I gotta do them in front of the pauldron to really show you what they can get. But, yep, those are articulated enough. How far into the arms go? This is something that, another point that I don't bring up very often, but sometimes the articulation doesn't go in very far. Not that it bothers me, but I know that some folks at home like that articulation to be able to go in, and that's what we're going to get that way. Then we have the head, which is on a ball joint. It's okay, it's all right, not bad, not too far back though, which is what I would have liked to see, more backwards motion, because this is a flight figure. And of course we have wrists that are on the rounded hinge. We got the groin right here, and it's pretty articulated as always. We got the double jointed knees, no complaints there as usual. And then we have the ankles, which it's nice that you actually can't see the rounded hinge because it's covered by the fancy boot, but it'll get the same kind of articulation that we would be expecting from the rounded hinge with a little bit of toe articulation. Here he is in comparison to a couple other Firestorms, the classic DC Direct and two DC Universe classics. So what do I think about these four figures? Do I think that they are reasonable action figure, three-dimensional adaptations of the characters who first appeared in Blackest Night and Brightest Day? Do I think they're worth your time and effort to go out on the hunt to go and find these? Or should you just leave them on the pegs because they're nothing more than action figure-shaped plastic trash? Well, as usual, because you've been watching the video and you've made it this far, then you probably have figured out that I definitely like these. If you're out on the hunt, keep your eyes open for them. This is a fantastic wave of figures. The bonus is it actually builds this collect to build Atrocitus here, which will be reviewed in a different video. And it gives me hope that eventually we will see Todd release more characters from Blackest Night, a wildly popular, super classic DC Comics crossover event. If we're going to go with comic book accurate / specific themed events to be releasing figures, why not go with one that more people know and love, in comparison to, say, Batman Last Night on Earth? Anywho, that's all for me. Hopefully you found this video to be an interesting, insightful, useful waste of time, and I will see you with the next one. Have a DC day, everybody, and take care.